feature presentation.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode
What?
137 of the 108th best. I was going to just say 8th best movie podcast in Canada.
Wow, those
I
tar
am-
reviews really sunk us.
I was going to restart, but you know what? Who cares? I
This
am
is
one of your
good.
hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Matt, you're going
I
to
don't know
LA.
what that intro. Yeah, LA. Yeah, I'm going to LA. As you're listening to this, I'm either on the way or I'm just getting ready to go to the airport. So,
But his
it's
ghost
the
still haunts this
future.
podcast.
Future. We are both gonna be there for a Critics' Choice event next week for the premiere of Glass Onion, which should be a blast at the Academy Museum. But I am going a week early to hang out with my wife and spend some time in LA because Eric, you're a madman. I can't do the one night in, one night out again. I couldn't do it. So we're spending a little extra time in LA. Gonna go to Disneyland. I'm gonna see Black Panther Wakanda Forever for a second time at probably the El Capitan Theater. I'm thinking about the TCL Chinese IMAX, maybe a couple other things that might be in there. We're gonna go see some award screenings at the Disney lot and other places. So that's on the movie front. And then we're just gonna check out a bunch of other random stuff. Nevis wants to check out some of Lisa Vanderpump's restaurants from Vanderpump,
Vanderpump
Rules,
Rules.
and the Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever. So we're gonna see a bunch of stuff, museums, kind of wander around. I can't wait to get some breakfast tacos, get some In-N-Out burger, get some Dunkin', get some
Sugarfish.
Sugarfish. 5 minutes from our hotel. First night we're there, I'm getting that little takeout box, baby. So I'm excited.
No,
So,
this is the first. I mean, you've been to LA before, and so
Yeah.
has Nevis, but this is
yeah.
the longest you've been to LA.
Yeah, both of Nevis went when she was 18 with her parents for her 18th birthday. This will be number 3 for me. Both 2 other times were short. So I went for work when I worked at an ad agency that shall not be named. And went for like a long weekend basically. I think I left like Thursday night and came back Tuesday or Monday. And
And that was
we
like
had to
right when the pandemic was happening too.
right before, dude, like the week before. So it was like March 8th I went to Disneyland. So it was like, in March 15th was like March 15th it was like, don't leave your house for 2 years. It's like, oh shit, I was at Disneyland like basically 4 days before they shut everything down for 2 years. Yeah, so I went and I saw like 3 hockey games. I did some work with TikTok while I was there, and then I kind of bounced back. And then we went last year for our In-N-Out little trip for Power of the Dog.
I believe it's called Power of the Hog.
Yeah, and then sure, which was fun, but a lot. Which you are doing again this year, so I applaud you, sir.
I applaud you because you are going to have a great time. You're spending it with your second best friend. Just kidding, your best friend. And also like it's one of those it's one of those places where it's just like you need about a week or so to kind of do the touristy kind of thing and kind of just enjoy it, more so than just having to go to an event, which again, we're both very lucky and grateful that we
I'm pumped. I've never been to the
so.
Academy Museum, and I know they've hosted some premieres before, and I'm pumped for that. Glass Onion's a great movie, so I'm excited to see it again. And yeah, man, like it should be a good time. I'm excited to hang out with you. I'm excited to hang out with Nevis.
Give me some
As
Blu-rays.
I will. As you guys are listening to this, the embargo is up for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We will not be spoiling anything on this show, obviously, but you guys can go check out our spoiler-free review right now over on Untitled Movie Podcast. It's about over 50 minutes of Eric and I kind of dissecting the movie as best as we could while dancing around any major plot points and different things like that. We'll also have a spoiler cast for you guys out on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific. There's already a YouTube premiere kind of thing if you want to say notify me when that goes live. And you guys can check out our spoiler-filled thoughts then. And then on today's episode, we'll also be talking about the press conference, the virtual press conference that Eric and I attended. God, it feels like an eternity ago. It was only about a week ago, but everything's flying by, and it seems like we saw Black Panther so long ago, but it's finally coming out, and I'm excited to see it again because I'm trying to figure out in LA where I'm going to see it. But we'll talk about that press conference in a sec. Yeah, Eric. So my question to you: do I do El Capitan for Black Panther second time, or
Wow.
or do I go to TCL Chinese IMAX? So Black Panther has a shifting aspect ratio to 1:9. From it's expanded a little bit only in certain sequences, so it's not like the whole movie or anything. So I could go to the TCL IMAX, or do I go to El Capitan, which is the Disney owned theater, which is another old theater in LA that has like a dude plays an organ and it's all decked out because Disney only usually plays Disney movies there. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't know.
My recommendation, El Capitan, because you can watch Black Panther Wakanda Forever in IMAX when you get
at
back.
Scotia, right? Yeah. So I feel like and I know the TCL IMAX theater is gorgeous as well, but El Capitan feels like it's unique in the sense, again, if you're going to see a Disney movie, I feel like that's the place to kind of go see it in downtown LA, or not downtown. It's in Hollywood.
Like Barbarian and
that'd be
Strange
awesome.
World. And could you imagine that? It's like, I mean, it is a Disney movie technically. So
I'm surprised. I don't think, do they ever play 20th Century Fox movies at El Capitan? I can't speak today.
I mean, I don't think they do on the regular, but I'm sure there's always an exception to the rule, because I would assume that Avatar: The Way of Water would be something that they would want to play there.
Yeah, it absolutely will. So yeah. Eric, how are you? Are you excited for this trip? What are you doing?
Well, Matt, first, I want to apologize to you, because I continually cut you off as we do this podcast. A reviewer pointed this out, and I also want to say to those,
they were at least sort of
keep sending in those reviews.
The tar heads, yeah. Well, now it's just us airing of grievances for people who gave us bad reviews. No, the one person gave us 4 stars. They just said, you need to stop cutting me the fuck off. So stop cutting me off, bro.
I gotta work on that.
No,
I'm gonna work on that now.
I don't think. Yeah. And then the tar heads, I just thought was funny. I think that's like, it's interesting because like, I guess everyone who does a podcast has opinions, but our show is literally based on opinions, right? So I think sometimes when people disagree, it's not necessarily this podcast is bad. It's I don't like your opinion because it doesn't line up with mine. So it is what it is. You know what? Once you put your opinion out there, whether it's written, whether it's a podcast, I'm like, you open yourself up, much like us criticizing, both in a good way and bad way. I don't mean just criticizing in a bad way. Movies and art that's put out there. I'm like, if you put yourself out there, you're open to criticism, right? So,
and fairly so.
The tar heads don't want to listen because I didn't like it. I'm sorry.
Well, Matt, as an okay host, I've been preparing for LA, so I've been trying to get done a lot of like the Rogers stuff. I recorded an episode with Mark Weingust, who talked a little bit about layered butter. Actually, I'll grab this right now. Their 5th volume is out, and that was a really fun discussion. I'm going to catch the menu on Wednesday, so we can
didn't I do that already too?
So we'll have a review for that, because you saw that back at TIFF, and we'll possibly kind of line that up when we're both back in Ontario. Um, from there, I will also be doing an interview with the director of a movie called Close, which played at Cannes later this week. So I've got a lot to think about before even like packing and getting ready for LA. So like that's kind of like where I am with my mindset right now. It's less about like, oh, I going to LA on the 14th and 15th and hanging out and having a good time. It's more like, okay, what housekeeping do I have to get done beforehand and make sure everything's kind of good to go.
Yeah, I feel you there. I packed yesterday, so I wouldn't have to kind of deal with it today. And there's always those like, it's lovely to be able to go travel, but there's always that like anxiety of getting to the airport, making sure you packed everything. Nevis and I are sharing luggage because we're cheap and don't want to pay for two checked bags. So we don't need to. We're there for a week, but I always overpack when I go. Like I'm like I can't decide, throw everything in there. But I definitely understand. I've been trying to do some of that stuff today. And it's all that stuff of being like, do I tidy up before I go? Because you want to come home to a clean house. But then you're also like, I'm not going to be here for a week. So that's future Matt's problem. And shit like that. So I don't know. We'll see.
So did you pack
Um,
a sink like Elon Musk did coming into Twitter to let it sink in?
what a,
Yeah,
why?
I don't know.
What a dumb
And to make
man,
somebody
Twitter.
get that for him is even worse.
I'm so bummed out about Twitter. I know this is like not necessarily movie related, but it sort of is because of film Twitter and everything. And film Twitter, isn't always the best place, but it's a place. Um and I think I owe a lot to my career from Twitter. Both because I really do think it's a valuable networking platform, especially for people who don't go out much or I'll network in the sense of like we'll go to events, we'll talk to people we know and introduce ourselves to some other people sometimes. But I really found that Twitter, it's like a eulogy this week. Or like everyone just kind of going, rest in peace Twitter. Like we don't know what the hell is going to happen, but
Pour one out.
I really like I owe a lot to it. Like I don't think I ever would have gone on Kind of Funny if I didn't wasn't so active on Twitter. And or I don't know if I would have gotten that first job at Tribute with Bonnie Lawfer if I wasn't active on Twitter. And like a lot of the writing and freelance gigs that I've gotten through Twitter, and I know a lot of freelancers are in that same boat. So it's like really weird what's going on like right now, and just like that one guy can kind of just like do it for a meme, then try to back out of it, and then the board sue him to force him to buy it, and then him just come in now and just be like, all right, this is how it's going to be, and I might burn it all down. And you're like, that's a bummer. Like, I know it's not a great place. Like, there's a lot of shitty stuff on Twitter, even when it wasn't owned by Eli Musk. Eli, I said it too. We're infecting each other. Elon Musk. Um, but it's a part of me is a little
Yeah.
sad. I spend probably too much time on Twitter, and I would like to spend less time. But like, I still hope it doesn't go away, and I hope like you are starting to see people back out, and I totally understand that if you don't want to support anything that guy does. Um, I won't be giving them a goddamn cent, just like I haven't given Twitter a goddamn cent in the last 13 years or whatever. Um, but I hope it doesn't all burn down because I really do think it's a valuable thing for this podcast, for us to engage with people who listen, to just engage with other people with common interests. And I think without that, I don't know if there's another place. I know people are going to this thing called Mastodon or something, and it like,
Power Rangers related?
yeah. And it seems janky as fuck, but I'm wondering if something else will pop up or if this is kind of like, anything on the internet when big change happens, it's like the end of the world, and then it ends up being pretty much exactly the same, except now you can give $8 to get verified. Like that's what I'm hoping it is, right? Like I
Yeah.
hope it's like just the exact same. Sure, there'll be a little bit more racists and free speech, motherfuckers that come on, and then you just block those people or mute them and just like get them out of your fucking feed. And I hope that's like the only thing that changes. And then if you want to pay $8 a month to get verified, all right, I guess you have enough money to just shit away because like that doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially when you see someone like Stephen King being like, "Yeah, I'm not paying, to be verified," and then Elon Musk, again, Eli, but I don't want to give him the the proper pronunciation of his name, anyways. Haggling with him, being like, "Okay, how about $8 instead of 20?" And it's just like, no, you don't get it. It's the principle of the thing. Like, I'm not going to give money to a billionaire who is a complete and total asshole who's not even connected to the real world in any way whatsoever and is actually causing more problems because of the things he's saying and is not understanding how free speech actually works. So yeah, it's just like, right. I mean, Twitter has always been a hellscape, but at least,
But you can kind of make it your own a little
yeah,
bit.
you can model your
Make it
own
your own
personal
hell.
hell.
Yeah,
um
exactly.
yeah, and now it's just kind of like, maybe because it does have more of a figurehead behind it, where the people that were running Twitter before Musk, like, they kind of were almost anonymous, like,
Well, you had that Jack guy who was there for a while, Jack Dorsey or whatever.
yeah, but still, in terms of like a Mark Zuckerberg or something like that, they're, I think, a face of a social media platform can actually be more harmful than good. And you look at like a lot of people having moved from Facebook to Twitter partly because of that, and also it seemed to date itself a little bit. Now you have this kind of group of people that are deciding, like, do I stay, do I go? I'm going to stay for now. And then you have some people that are already gone, and yeah, it's a weird flux right now to be in, because it's like, do I want to stay, do I want to go? And you brought up some good reasons why to stay, and there are good reasons to leave. And then on top of all this, like, us feeling bad with what's going on with this sort of corporate takeover and transition, but also a lot of people losing their jobs, and like, that's something as well that's awful, where
Yeah,
like, I hope that everybody lands on their feet that got fired from
absolutely.
this
That's the most
transition.
important thing.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like to come in and cut half your workforce just because you spent $44 billion. And like, I feel like cutting your workforce is the laziest way to save money. Like, it is the laziest and easiest way to save money at a company. And it just shows you that there's no regard for actual human beings in no sense. And a lot of big companies do this shit where they're just like, how can we're saving ourselves, so we'll fucking ruin your life. And it's just like, it's really disheartening. And yeah, I understand for that kind of stuff too, if people just don't want to support that. And I don't know, it's good to see advertisers bouncing out and things like that, but then that will kind of crash the platform eventually, because if he's not making any money, then who the hell knows if it'll survive. But hopefully something else pops up. But it also sucks when you've uh built some, like, not that I have that many
Well,
followers
invested so
or
much
anything,
time
time,
into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's into it, that helped all those things that I was saying. But yeah, ultimately, and there was those rumors that Facebook was going to have big layoffs too. And for someone who worked in social media for 7 years or so, maybe a little bit more, it is kind of social media has always been something that changes every 2 years, like, I feel like, because there's like a new platform, or you feel like, like with a lot of technology, like, it's out of date very quickly, right? So there's always a new thing, or there's always something different, or a new way to target people, is coming from my side of marketing. And but then people go, that's an invasion of privacy. And then you're like, okay, TikTok is now the huge thing, pivot to video, which we've heard more than once in media companies and shit like that. So I retweeted something recently that was just like, Twitter was a special place for, or still is, I guess, for now, for those people that didn't fit into those other social medias, like you're too ugly for Instagram and I'm too old for TikTok and I'm, too young for Facebook. And you can find the tweet. It's on my feed, but like
Yeah, and Snapchat, I have no idea.
it was yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. So anyways, I guess pour one out for Twitter. We're saying this because today was supposed to be the date that like all these big changes happened. They are waiting until after the midterm elections to
Which
do a
is
lot of
also
them.
depressing to think about, like, what could happen this week in the US. And obviously, we're bystanders in this whole thing being Canadian, but there's a lot riding on this election process, in particular when it comes to how democracy will be kind of preserved or discarded in the next decade. Um, and it sounds like a bummer, but like it's like I'm now worried that like we're going to be basically living in an Andor situation.
Andor's great though.
It's a great show, but I don't want to
I
be
don't necessarily be in the
oppressed by an empire.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but we'll wait and see on that front. All right. What do you want to talk about now? Should we go into the BP conference, or do we want to wait until
Yeah,
later for
let's
that?
go
Or?
into that
Yeah.
now, since it's been brought up, and it is kind of the centerpiece of this episode.
Okay, so Eric and I, like we mentioned earlier in the episode, the Black Panther Wakanda Forever embargo is now up. So you can check out our spoiler-free review over on YouTube or podcast services at Untitled Movie Reviews. Eric and I were lucky enough to go to the virtual press conference for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which featured Ryan Coogler and the majority of the cast. I don't think anyone Angela Bassett wasn't there, right?
And
I
neither
think
was
mostly
Dominique
everyone.
Thorne.
Yeah, but everyone else is pretty much there. Eric, I'll kick it over to you. We've done a few of these like press conference kind of conversations now, and I feel like some are better than others. I felt like this was a pretty good one, and I think going into it, we kind of obviously knew what a lot of the questions were going to lean towards, and what the kind of much like the movie, the kind of you know somber but celebratory kind of vibe that the movie has would continue into this press conference. But how did you feel about the conversation and the press conference?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, like, again, it is a press conference to promote the film, and after you've seen it, so there's always that kind of add-on that it is a way to kind of advertise than it is to criticize something, right? And I think the moderator was it Jacqueline Cole of Rotten Tomatoes.
I believe so.
um did a really good job. I mean, like, I will say that with all of these press conferences we've attended so far, the moderation has been pretty good in terms of keeping things kind of on schedule, even if they're running behind. And that's just the nature of junketing in general. When you are kind of on a schedule, you're always going to fall a little bit behind. But overall, I think, like, one of the big takeaways from just hearing everybody talk, obviously, there's a lot of respect and processing still going on with the loss of Chadwick Boseman, but also hearing Ryan Coogler talk about it and talking about how it was both a therapeutic process, but he's still reeling with that loss and will still be doing so even after the movie is released on September the 11th. And September the 11th, oh, November the 11th. My brain
Yeah.
is out to lunch today. On November the 11th, Remembrance Day in Canada. And I think what I really appreciated from all of that was Coogler himself, like, just how humble of a person he is. Every time you would get someone complimenting him, or there would be some sort of conversation steered towards his work, he would always defer to other
The
people
cast and crew, yeah.
and talk about their work, not only in this production but in other films and TV shows as well. And Ryan Coogler with these two Black Panther films and Creed and Fruitvale Station, like it's a really fascinating progression to see a director. We've talked a lot about this, where starting out in Sundance or Sundance Labs, developing projects, and then kind of having an indie hit or a critically acclaimed film and moving into the franchise territory.
Yeah.
What Ryan Coogler has done with Creed and the Black Panther movies is he's made conscientious blockbusters and really kind of sophisticated popcorn films.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those guys where, like, I still hope that he can maybe go and make something personal and
Smaller.
small
Yeah.
again, and do something, because he's earned that now. Obviously, he has the cachet to go and do that. But at the same time, I think because of his contributions to the MCU and to the Rockyverse, he has really kind of influenced a new generation of filmmakers that will grow up on those movies the way that we grew up on Spielberg's Jurassic Park and things like that. So he is, I think, one of the most important commercial filmmakers working today.
I absolutely agree. I think we both took away very similar feelings. I remember texting you as we were watching, being like, Ryan Coogler is just the best, man. Like every answer you heard out of his mouth was just what you're saying. Like, taking a compliment, but also making sure that you spread the love with the cast and crew. So just to make sure everyone knows who was there, it was Kevin Feige, producer, Nate Moore, the other producer, Ryan Coogler, the director, Ludwig Göransson, who was the composer, Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Denai Guerrera, Letitia Wright, Tenoch Huerta, Florence Kasumba, Michaela Cole, Mabel Cadena, Alex Livinali, and Martin Freeman. Was Martin Freeman there?
I
No, he
mean, he
wasn't, right?
might have been like
Sorry,
there
I'm
for the
looking at
press
the list
day.
that Disney sent
Sent us.
us, but
Yeah.
I don't think Martin Freeman was in the conversation we listened to.
No.
Um, but yeah, I thought it was a genuinely engaging conversation, and yeah, like Eric mentioned, these things are meant to give press more context about the film, and like you said, to kind of promote the movie for the most part. But like for me, I always use them as like it's great to see the movie, and then it just gives you a little bit more about what they put into it and what the actors put into it and what the director put into it, kind of almost immediately after seeing the movie, which is something you only get at like film festivals and different things like that. So like I always think that they are usually, at least you get something out of them, and then at best you get like quite a bit of a great engaging conversation. And this one, because I think because of that, because of Chadwick's passing, which was brought up a good amount of times, as it probably will throughout the whole press circuit for this movie. But yeah, like it was great hearing the cast talk about what they put into the movie, and what they took from Chadwick, and trying to honor him here. There was someone asked about how Rihanna got involved, which I thought was like an interesting, being with Kendrick Lamar doing the album for the first movie, like how Rihanna got involved with this one, which I think is sort of a big deal as well. Like it's not necessarily about the movie, but you have Rihanna contributing like 2 songs in the closing credits. Someone who hasn't you know uh, made new music in 6 years, and how she saw the trailer for the movie and was so inspired, and with Chadwick's passing as well, that she wanted to make sure that she contributed to the movie. So I like, you get little nuggets like that I think are interesting. That's not necessarily like we're gonna judge the movie for the movie. You guys can listen to our spoiler free review available now. But stuff like this, it is just cool to see, like after such a big Marvel movie. And I thought it was interesting with Kevin Feige. Wow, we can't talk today. I don't know what it
Nope.
is.
We had all the good stuff with Black
Yeah.
Panther Wakanda Forever when we were reviewing it both as a non-spoiler and spoiler
Yeah.
review. So the
Kevin
shooting the shit
Feige
episode is a little
is
bit
just
more
us letting
slurred, I
loose a little
guess.
too loose. Kevin Feige kind of stepped back, which I on this one, and he only kind of chimed in here and there. But I loved hearing from Teno Huerta as well. I probably say his name differently each time, and I'm sorry, but
Tenoch
um,
Huerta, yeah.
Tenoch Huerta. Hearing him talk about why he wanted to play the role of Namor and how it um he saw a lot of representation. The first movie was so big for that too, but like to bring um his
Mexican
culture, the
culture
Mexican
and
culture
the
into it
Mayan
as well. Yeah,
civilization, the
good.
ancient Mayan civilization, and
Yeah,
like you, yeah, you get this feeling that it's like it's not just simply doing it for like as like a window dressing kind of thing. Like there's an
totally.
actual integration of the culture and used in a very practical way. And he even talked about like how from his perspective, a lot of this stuff has always kind of been like almost embarrassing to talk about, but now
Hmm.
with this movie and the performance that he gives and the character and all that, he's
What the
very
movie's about
proud
and all
of
that.
the
Yeah,
representation. And yeah, it's also just nice to see an actor who has been working since for 16 years, because he started around 2006. And he's done a lot of stuff, but a lot of North American audiences in particular will probably be introduced to him in this movie. And I think that's why he gets like the introducing
yeah.
credit
Credit.
there at
Yeah,
the end. And when you're watching the film, you can really tell that it's like, we talked about this in the review and even in our spoiler review, where when an actor comes on the screen and they embody the character so perfectly, it's like the first time a lot of people saw Tom Hiddleston and saw Loki first and didn't necessarily go back to the Joanna Hogg movies until a little bit later. And this is kind of the
yeah,
same thing, where like I think some people will maybe recognize him from the Forever Purge, but this will kind of be that jumping off point and to dive into his back catalog of movies. But also moving forward now, you'll recognize him in stuff when it, whether it be on TV or in other films, anytime he pops up in anything that's been in the past.
yeah. They also talked about why they decided to focus the movie on the women of Wakanda. So Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler talked about that. Just after they
You
had
say
to go back.
Namor talked about that?
Nate Moore
More
is
okay.
the
I thought you
producers,
said
which is
Namor.
funny. No, it's funny. His name is Nate Moore, and the movie has Namor in it. Maybe he's like, guys, we gotta put Namor in this movie. We are like, Nate Moore, come on, bro. We know why you're trying to do this. No, Nate Moore, the producer, Nate Moore, and Ryan Coogler talked about like it was just a natural kind of when they took a step back after Chadwick passed away and had to rethink what they were going to make this movie about and completely start from scratch. It just felt natural to them that they would focus on the women of Wakanda, which does totally make sense, especially when you see the movie as well. Like, he was the king of Wakanda, but like the first movie even focused on these women, and if they lose their king, like how would it affect all of them, and that just felt like a natural thing to them. So it was, and they talked about that it wasn't necessarily even a conscious thing of being like we have to focus on the women or for any reason, but it just like those little things are why I kind of like going to these things, because like you get little nuggets that are kind of interesting and do make you go, oh damn, like I do want to see the movie again, or I can't wait for people to see this. So yeah, I had a good time with this one for sure.
Yeah, I think the Marvel ones can be a lot of fun, especially when you have
When they spoil that Ben Kingsley was in Shang-Chi.
I mean, that was even before the press junket. That was on the red carpet. But yeah, with this one, I think like it adds a little bit more context to realizing that there was a film in development while Chadwick Boseman was still alive for a sequel, and how losing him was such a devastating moment for everybody, and where do you go from there, and how do you pick those pieces up and kind of, put it back together in a way that makes sense, and is also just, again, paying tribute to somebody who, you know his life was cut short. And it's just like, it's such a delicate journey to take. And I think overall, like, it, again, it reflects in the writing and in the performances. I think everybody understood that this movie wasn't going to be necessarily, what like, again, like, a sequel to Black Panther. I don't know if this is a sequel to Black Panther. I think this truly is Wakanda Forever. Like, this is
Yeah,
a Wakanda movie, and I think this is probably the best direction that they should have gone in, and only time will tell, obviously, in terms of how audiences react to it. Um, but yeah, it's just, I think you have to, when you have to pivot, when something really does happen that is life changing. um you can go one of two ways. You can be exploitative and kind of capitalize on, that change, or you can find a way to tell a great story with an emotional core and still, you know be an entertaining film. And it does both. And again, I think it all comes down to Ryan Coogler. Like, the guy knew how much work was going to go into this, but also, like, that pressure and feeling responsible if this thing didn't work. you know and that, even when he was talking, you got a sense of that. So it's one of those movies that I think is an accomplishment and stands on its own, and not just simply as a Black Panther sequel, but just as its own tribute within the MCU to T'Challa and to Chadwick Boseman.
absolutely. All right, moving on. We might as well stick with some MCU stuff because we had some breaking casting just as we were starting the show for once, not right after, because we're recording a little bit later in the day today. So we got a bunch of, it's like a mix of rumors and confirmed casting, or confirmed, you know what I mean by like Deadline and places confirming it. So for Agatha Coven of Chaos, Eric Andre and Sashir Zameda have been cast in Agatha Coven of Chaos. So Eric Andre in the MCU, baby. Let's go.
The
um,
Eric Andre show. If he's playing Eric Andre in the show, that would be
yeah.
amazing.
Which makes me wonder, like, you got to think that this show is going to continue that tone from at least WandaVision for the first little bit before it starts kind of diving into chaos. Because I know Dottie, the woman, the character from WandaVision, I forget the actress's name, I apologize, but she's returning as well. And the place that,
Emma Caulfield.
you might be right.
She's from
Um
Buffy. Yeah.
Thank you. Never watched Buffy, so sorry. Buffy was on, oh no, they put it on at the Halloween party I was at. And then people started talking about Buffy. And I was like, you know who likes Buffy? Eric. I literally said that at this party. Um, and they were like, really? And I'm like, yep. And then that was it.
I grew up with it,
Um,
man. Like, it's just one
I
of
know
those things.
it was on a lot when I was at my cousin's house. I just
Yeah.
never really got into it. But you would assume because of the place that Agatha was left in at the end of WandaVision that would still keep that kind of sitcom-y vibe, at least for some of it. And I
But
could
that
just
wouldn't make
see,
sense
would it?
necessarily if it's her show, unless the
But she
point
doesn't
is,
she like like kind of brainwash her kind of thing at the end
yeah,
of
Scarlet Witch.
WandaVision?
Yeah, but would
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch be casting a spell that puts her in
No,
the
so it would be
sitcom
modern day,
universe?
like in, because I think she's still living in Westfield, right?
Yeah.
Um, but is it Westfield? Westview.
Westview. Westview.
Westview.
Come on, guy.
She's
Come
still
on,
living
guy.
in Westview. But I don't think the spell would be there other than on her.
Right.
But then maybe when Scarlet Witch dies, spoilers, sorry everyone. In if you haven't seen Multiverse of Madness, but that's your own fault. Maybe the spell is gone. I don't know how any of this works, but I just could see Eric Andre working in some sort of weird character in Westview. So like I'm here for it. I don't know, or maybe he's a wizard. I don't know. Like I don't.
Yeah. I don't know. This is one of those shows that kind of feels like it only really exists because Catherine Hahn's performance was so popular
Yeah.
within, WandaVision, that it's like, okay, well, we might as well see if we can kind of push that a little bit further. And you do have the creatives from WandaVision coming back here and sort of helping to put that show together. But tonally speaking, like, it's going to probably be a little bit different, and it's not going to do that kind of like each and every week. It's going to be an episodic
No,
take
I
on
didn't think
a
that,
decade of
but like,
television, right? So like, what's the angle going to be with this? Are we going to revisit more of, maybe the Salem witch trials and things like that, because there is that kind of backstory that was kind of hinted at in one of the later episodes in terms of Agatha's sort of dark past and sort of the tragic nature of that character. And we talked about it in the spoiler cast, and this isn't a spoiler to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but this show just almost feels like it's being made to bring back Scarlet Witch at the end of the series. Like, it's a way to kind of like, you know,
yeah.
revive the character for continuity's sake.
But then why kill her off to bring her right back? I don't know. I guess it's a very Marvel thing, but like,
Well, there's also been
it's
rumors of Vision having a series as
Vision Quest
well.
is a great name. like
Right.
like that name for that series is great. The other piece of thing for Agatha Coven of Chaos is Aubrey Plaza looks like she was also cast as the villain, even though Agatha is sort of a villain. In
Anti-hero, Matt. We live in a
Yeah,
world of
sure.
anti-heroes now.
In Agatha Coven of Chaos. Love Aubrey Plaza. I think she's perfect for that. Some people are theorizing that she could even be playing the same character she played in Legion. But I don't think they'll do that. I don't personally. I thought Legion was great. Even though I'd never finished it, but from what I saw of it, it was always something that I wanted to go back to. I just
Or maybe it'll be a Ralph Boner 2.0, where you
you got to
think it's
think
the character
he's
from
back in
Legion,
that
and then
show too, right?
possibly. I mean, unless I was actually thinking he might have popped up. So with She-Hulk, we talked about this when we reviewed WandaVision. I honestly thought Westview would be suing Scarlet Witch on
Oh,
She-Hulk. Like, that seemed like it would
that
have
would
been
have been
a
good.
funny
That's a
plot
more
line.
Harvey Birdman thing, right?
Right.
Like where I feel like all of the court cases we got in She-Hulk were a little bit more, they weren't involving characters we really knew other than, Matt Murdock showing up eventually, but
Oh, and
and some
Wong.
of them were hit or miss. Yeah, Wong, fair. And he did come to testify for Madison with two N's and one Y, but not where you think they were.
Yeah,
So,
so like I think that
um,
that would have been a funny like court case, and it didn't have to be like the central storyline, but in terms of connecting, like, the people of
mhm.
Westview versus
Yeah.
Wanda. But yeah, it's one of those shows where it's probably not as anticipated compared to Secret Invasion, or like it's Agatha
Hey,
and
no one was
Echo.
asking for an Andor series, so
That's true, and Echo's another one where, like, spinning off of Hawkeye, it's like at the same time you're like, did was anybody asking for an Echo series? But it might work. Who knows?
yeah. Um, I liked Echo, the character, maybe even more. Echo makes more sense to me than maybe Agatha, because I'm kind of with you where like thought Catherine Hahn was great in WandaVision, but I didn't need a entire series based on her at least now. But after Andor, man, I'm going in with an open mind on all of these things because like Andor would have been the bottom of my list of characters that I'm like, gotta make a 12 episode 2-season series on him. It's like, no one wanted that. Like, and a lot of people like Rogue One, but I don't think anyone's like, that character needs his own series, and it's going to be the best thing uh from the Star Wars universe since the original trilogy. And it's just like, no one would have called that. So I'm open to it. I don't know, but I like Eric Andre. I liked Sashir Zameda when she was on SNL. I haven't really seen her in that much, I think, since but she's popped up here and there. um Sticking with superhero stuff, we might as well just kind of stay in that realm, which is basically everything.
The quantum
um
realm.
Daniel Kaluuya was cast in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as Spider-Punk. Um, I'm all for this. So now your new heroes you have in this, you have Issa Rae as Spider-Woman, and you have Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099. Uh, Now Daniel Kaluuya joining them as Spider-Punk. There are rumors of other Spider-Man variants popping up in probably part 1 and part 2. Wouldn't be surprised if Tom Holland does show up at some point in one of those, or I think he'll probably be teased. My theory is that he probably shows up at the very end and is going to be like a major character in part 2. And it just makes a thing that he can still be in the Sony Spider-Man universe, or whatever the hell they're calling it now. Um, it can be sort of part of the MCU multiverse saga. Um, you can have the Tom Holland Spider-Man. He just has to sit in a voice booth for a day, and you kind of keep that character going while they try to figure out what they want to do with the next sequel. So there are rumors like the Spider-Man from the PS4 video game is going to appear. I read that somewhere as well. These are rumors where Daniel Kaluuya was actually confirmed, but you got to think any Spider-Man from any era of animated or not could probably pop up in these two movies. So I'm hoping the 90s Spider-Man does show up too.
Yeah, I mean the only one that can't is Paul Soles, who voiced the '60s version, who passed away. So, and it was actually a Toronto voice actor. So, but other than that, yeah, I think the '90s voice actor would be a fun one for a whole generation of kids that grew up watching that show.
Yeah, I
And
would
that
love that if they.
Aerosmith riff.
God, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they go to a 90s universe in that art style, I will lose it. But obviously Daniel Kaluuya rules, and I'm glad that he's in this. So
So now
anything
he's a
else,
part of
Eric?
the MCU in a weird way that's like both live action and in animated format.
Yeah,
Potentially,
but
potentially, if your theory's right about Tom Holland.
which I feel like a lot of people are now.
Yeah,
So
I
like
mean Mahershala
even
Ali though, right? You know, as Prowler in the first Spider-Verse movie, and
yeah.
Brian Tyree Henry in
There's an
Eternals.
actor in Wakanda Forever that is uh they are announced for the movie, but like you don't, and it's not really a big thing, but like that's not spoiling anything.
Oh,
But
Catherine Hahn,
um
right?
yeah,
As
yeah,
Doc Ock.
there you go. So, and there's more. So what else do we want to talk about? I thought there was some more Marvel stuff. Am I missing it? I forget everyone. um I'll just keep killing time. Anything else, Eric?
Dead air.
No, it's just like, anything else you've been watching or no?
No, just Andor and
Yeah, Andor
Close,
rules, dude.
and yeah, it is a really, like, I think, like, having talked to you and other people that are watching it, you need to give it time. You need to let it build, and you will
You
be
got to get to
rewarded
episode
for
3 or
it.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm
Um,
rewatching it with Nevis right now from episode 1, cuz like she's she bowed out of Star Wars a little while ago. She was into Mandalorian. She's seen both seasons. Uh Boba
Mando.
F- Boba Fett, she watched the first or second one and she was like, I'm good. And then I'm like, no, I get it. I get it. And then she didn't watch Obi-Wan because she really likes Ewan McGregor, but hadn't seen the prequels. She's never watched them. So I'm like, I don't think you need to watch this if you haven't seen the prequels. Cause like you're just not going to get much from it. We might revisit Obi-Wan once she eventually watches the prequels, which I probably won't do until like the next mainline Star Wars movie comes out.
Which who knows when that's going to be, because it does seem like at this point Star Wars is more focused on sort of serializing the franchise into, you know, limited series. I mean, The Acolyte seems to be going into production very
Started
soon with the
today. Yeah.
casting of or the full cast announcement.
That's actually a good point, Eric. I meant
Yeah,
because that was something that actually did come up today. You saw that Daphne Keene joined the cast, who you
Carrie
guys
Ann
would know.
Moss.
Yeah, Carrie Ann Moss, um, joining Amanda Stenberg, and sorry, I'm pulling up the Star Wars press release and stuff that came out today. So good pivot to Star Wars. But yeah, there was that rumor that Damon Lindelof, or not rumor, like they kind of confirmed it, that he's working on a Star Wars movie right now, right?
Yeah. But again,
Um,
I mean, who knows how early that is? That could just be like, oh, he's, you know, putting together a writer's room and they're pitching ideas and, you know, like that. You, when you hear news like that,
it's so early, like you can't really say until it's in
yeah,
production, right?
unless they
Like,
have the script that's done and
because
it's
look at the
getting
Ryan
approved.
Johnson trilogy, look at like the
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie, like
Taika
you know,
Waititi, you know,
yeah, like the Kevin Feige produced one written by Michael Waldron. Like they're working on so many different things, and like they have had success in the TV realm, right? So which kind of makes sense. But yeah, so the Acolyte went into production today in the UK. They announced the cast. So Amanda Stenberg, Lee Jung Jae, who you guys would know from Squid Game, Manny Jacinto, who you guys would know from,
The Good
I know him
Place.
from The Good Place.
He was in Top
Daph
Gun Maverick too. He had like a
Oh, he
really
was
small
briefly,
role.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Daphne Keene from Logan, Jodie Turner Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Charlie Barnett, not Charlie Bartlett, Dean Charles Chapman, and Carrie Ann Moss. So, and the showrunner on this is the woman who
The creator of
created
Russian Dolls.
Russian Doll. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm pumped for that, man. Like after Andor, I'm all in on Star Wars TV again. Like you just hope that, you know, bringing in creators like Tony Gilroy and others that, like, you know, whether they have a reverence for Star Wars or not, but like just bring another element to Star Wars that doesn't have to be the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, focus on story first and the iconography second. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what I think someone like Tony
Use the
Gilroy has
sandbox and stuff.
established.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like it's I think again like Andor, it's far away in a galaxy far far away from Jedi, from the Skywalker stuff, and it feels like its own thing, with some of it being a little bit adjacent but still focusing on kind of this, you know, spy craft World War II sort of political thriller, and that's where the focus is. And you can tell, like in the one episode that we love with the eye, where it's like that whole episode is designed to be a, you know, crackerjack kind of suspense thriller in the vein of a heist movie. And when you're watching that, you realize, okay, there's so much that Star Wars has yet to explore outside of that original, you know, 9 saga
space
film.
operas. Yeah.
Yeah, you have, there's so much potential there to tell so many other stories, and it's just
And
like
we've always talked about that.
yeah,
Remember? Like I remember us going like, this is an entire universe. You're so singular and kind of blinded by just the Skywalkers, right? Like that there's so much else going on, like the people that are on these planets and
you're
everything. And like
blinded by hate.
I know we're getting back, like, so the Acolyte, the synopsis, I can read it here, is a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. So we're still getting back to like Jedi and Sith probably, but
But doesn't this
um
story take place 100 years before the
yeah,
prequels? So at least that's
even more
removed.
maybe, I think, right? Because I
Yeah.
think this might be taking place in the High Republic, which is quite a ways before the prequels. So this is the High Republic show, I believe, right? I think, but
I think so.
um, which will be cool to see as well, right? Like now we're seeing the Empire in charge. Like, what's it look like in the High Republic when the Jedi's are like these, basically, they are not the Jedi's we know from the prequels or the original series and stuff like that too, and then eventually the sequel series where they basically don't exist anymore. But yeah, I'm pumped for it, man. Like I'm all in on Star Wars again. It like rejuvenated me because like, I was soft on Boba Fett, and
But
I
Mando, Mando season
the
one,
Mando stuff is great, and like season 1 and 2 is great. The Mando episodes in Boba Fett I loved.
shout out to
Um,
Bryce Dallas Howard, aka Yaddle.
yeah.
She's
And
honestly like I want to see her direct a feature, like
I hope
let
she
her
does,
direct or a whole
or
series.
her whole show, right?
Yeah,
Like let her show run like whatever she wants to do.
because everything
Um,
she's directed in Star Wars is 10 times better than Ron's.
man, I just want to know what that Phil Lord and Chris Miller Han Solo movie was going to be. That's like the one thing, like if there was one movie you could see
Your own
that
personal
never,
what if?
yeah, like what would that be for you? Do you have one like that, like almost happened, whether it would like got canceled or someone took over and made a different version, or a studio took control, or like I guess for some people it will be Batgirl, like if you're thinking of recent things, but like
Does it
for
have to be
me,
something that was actually made, or can it be something that
no, something
almost
that was
got
never
made?
made and almost got made or got cut in production, or I guess right before production or something like that.
I mean, there's the obvious ones where it's like Jodorowsky's Dune would have been a really interesting
Good
film
doc.
to
Everyone go
see, a
watch
great
that.
doc. Um, as a film purist, I would have to say Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon, because of how much work he put into that movie. There are these volumes of books that he had, and like looking at some of them that were photos were taken of them, and kind of going through them, and like it it would have been something really spectacular. Did we get a lot of great movies from Stanley Kubrick? Absolutely. But for me, it's like that one where it's like, I wonder what this would have been. And that's the one that I think a lot of people probably also feel like, where it's like if we had gotten another Kubrick movie, but then if we got Napoleon, would we have gotten Barry Lyndon? I don't know. So
But Napoleon's just something he always wanted to do and never was able to do it. Is that
yeah,
what it
it
was?
was
Yeah.
just one of those things where the timing was never right. He felt like he was also working on other things at various points in his career. There was a time when Ian Holm was going to play Napoleon in, I think, the late 70s, early 80s. Obviously, Ian Holm, best known as playing Ash in Alien. There was rumors at one point that Al Pacino was going to play Napoleon. Um, and it just never happened. There's I mean, you can go to websites that are dedicated to you know what if or what could have been. The greatest movies never made. There's a podcast about that, and they talk about you know
A lot of these, right? And like,
yeah, like even the original version of the Super Mario Brothers film that was going to be more closer to what Super Mario Brothers was as a video game, but then how that changed. And so that's a great resource if you're ever and one of the guys who's actually the Steven Scarlotta, who's one of the co-hosts on that, is one of the producers on Jodorowsky's Dune. So yeah, it's
didn't
like
one of
that.
them write Sonic the Hedgehog too or
Yes,
something?
yes, Josh Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he wrote
Yeah.
both of them. Yeah.
Okay, good for him. All right, moving on. What else do we got? Jimmy Kimmel's hosting the Oscars. Um, sure.
I mean, it's gonna. I'm sure the first reference will be to, the last time he hosted, which was the Moonlight La La Land debacle there at
You
the
think
end.
he goes that first or the slap first? Because he's got to go slap first. You think?
Slap, and then, or maybe it'll be a combo thing. Maybe it'll
Sure.
be like,
Yeah.
we got the wrong envelope, and then someone slaps him because he
Yeah,
got the
that's
wrong.
good. I
I mean, I
guess.
just
I
wrote
mean,
that for them.
there you go. Eric, pay this
I'm a
man.
regular Bruce Valanche.
Oh man. So yeah, I mean Jimmy Kimmel is fine. Like it doesn't really matter who hosts the Oscars really, but
No.
a safe, bland choice. Like I have nothing against Jimmy Kimmel. He's probably one of the better, generic show host.
He's probably still
But
gonna okay. The show is gonna still go over time.
mhm.
Is the Academy going to stick to their guns like they did last year and do a pre-televised grouping of the below the lines nominations and winners, and then kind of release a kind of quick video afterwards? Is that going to be the same thing again, or are they going to go back to having everything presented live during the telecast? Because there were some people that won, like Riz Ahmed, for short narrative, that it was like, and his speech was great, and it's like I wanted to hear that during the telecast. Or Greg Fraser winning for Dune. I don't love Dune, but I mean he's a really wonderful cinematographer, and that was a category that was, a lot of people were thinking Ari Wagner could have possibly won, and if Ari Wagner did win, she would have been the first woman to win in cinematography. And it's like, you take away that moment, like, I don't know. It's weird. The Academy's at this point now where it's like, they're trying to like find a way to connect to audiences now to get in a bigger viewership, or sustain the one that they already have. And then they're also trying to answer to ABC and the people that are programming this thing. And it's like they're getting away from the whole point of it, which is to enjoy the movies, to enjoy the year of film. And I think
Always gotta make money, more viewership,
but I
and
think this year they're like, we've talked already about like movies like Top Gun Maverick and Everything Everywhere All at Once doing really well box office wise, and finding that mass appeal. And those are films that could easily get nominated for Best Picture. So it's like you now have these films that are going to be contending with the more traditional Oscar fare. So it's like, focus on that. Don't try to add a TikTok dance sequence like the Russo brothers talking about how their version of
Hercules.
Hercules is going to be experimental because they're going for the Gen Z group. And it's just like, come on.
What does
Come
that
on, guys.
mean?
I
What does
don't
that mean?
know. I don't
What does that
know.
mean? Is it mean it's gonna take Hercules and
What
do
does that
a like
mean?
a that's a game actually, which I contributed when I worked on TikTok. Anyways, it all comes full circle. What does that mean? Does it mean like it's going to be a jukebox musical where you're going to, because that's what you think of TikTok, right? It takes popular music and people lip sync them or dance to them. Um, or, there's obviously other stuff on TikTok, but that's like how it got popular. Is that what the hell they mean? Like, is it going to replace the original music from Hercules with like popular music, and you going to do like a that kind of thing?
Well,
Like, I don't know.
isn't TikTok like only limited to like a couple of minutes or less? Like in terms
Yeah,
of the length?
they've upped it. It was 15 seconds at first, but now it's longer and longer, like any video platform. But the most popular stuff is very short form video. Is Guy
Yeah.
Ritchie directing this? Is that
No, I thought it
right?
was the Russo brothers. Or
No, they're
are they just
producing
producing
it.
it? Okay.
Yeah. But I
Ugh.
thought didn't Guy Ritchie come
A
back to
Guy
do
Ritchie
another?
TikTok directed Hercules live action Disney remake.
Sounds like something was created in Eric's nightmare.
Yeah.
Like it's
Like
like,
Don
oh
Cheadle's algae rhythm comes into my brain and is like, these are the things that Eric hates the most. Let's put it on the screen.
yeah, he's absolutely directing it. I was right.
Oh my
Fucking
god.
crushed it.
Fuck's sakes. I hope
Um
you're happy.
I'm not. I don't like him. Like I if anything, we're two of
Still
the
waiting for
rich.
that Jason Statham Aubrey Plaza movie to come out that he directed.
Is that Operation Fortune?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that not out yet? I
Nope.
could have sworn that
Never
came
got
out.
released.
Really?
Yep.
It
I think
just
it's coming out in Australia in January or February, but it's never been released in North America, never released in the UK, just kind of
yeah, it
disappeared.
just got pulled. It was supposed to come out in January and then March, and then in February, STX just pulled it. Reports indicate the film was pulled from release because it features Ukrainian gangsters as villains. The film's producers thought it was in bad taste due to the ongoing war in Ukraine to air a movie featuring Ukrainian baddies. Um,
Well, all I can say is that if they thought that was in bad taste, then why the hell did they release The Gentleman? Because there is so many horrific racial stereotypes that are so offensive in that movie. And now they're making a series about it. And it's just like you can't escape Guy Ritchie. You just can't.
he has 4 movies that are either in pre or post production. So Operation Fortune is completed, awaiting release. He has Untitled Guy Ritchie film. You'll hear from our lawyers soon. Um, tentatively titled The Interpreter, which has Jake Gyllenhaal in it. That's in post production for United Artists and Amazon Studios, and then he has Hercules, which is he's in pre-production on, and then the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Is that a sequel to The Gentleman, or is that like? Aren't they doing a Gentleman TV series as
I
well?
just said that as I just said
Oh,
that. I don't
sorry. I don't. Sorry. I'm like,
you blanked out
you
as
know,
soon as you saw like
yeah.
4 Guy
I
Ritchie
blacked out.
projects.
Yeah, I saw too much Guy Ritchie in the to be announced section. Um, the Ritchie, we're Ritchie haters too, but like I've always said, like the only movie of his I like is The Man from Uncle.
Yeah.
And then everything else I do
And we're
not
never
like.
going to get a sequel to that now. So
No, we
I mean,
aren't.
I guess they could recast that one role. So
No one would care. No one remembers that movie anyway.
no,
I'm like, it's the
exactly.
one Guy Ritchie movie I like that no one talks about. Um, Wrath of Man was fine, but like it felt the most un-Guy Ritchie sort of to me. But
Well, it was also a
um,
remake as well, so
mhm,
like it was him kind of just cashing in,
mhm.
and I mean, in reuniting with Jason Statham because he hadn't worked with him for a while. So,
Yeah.
and Jason Statham and Josh Hartnett are both in
Oh man.
uh, Richie's next film, which
Yeah.
has been
I
delayed. So,
I finally watched the trailer for Plane, and oh my god, I'm in. I'm so in, man. I'm so in. What a dumb fucking title and a dumbass movie that is that fine line of like, is this okay? I don't know. Like, is it okay if I'm excited for this or if I like it? Because it's like in that Olympus Has Fallen territory where you're like, it's not like it's meh. But I watched that trailer and what they have to know how stupid that name is. Like they have to. That like they're in on the joke, right? Even watching the trailer, I'm like, they gotta be in on the joke.
well, at least the editors for the trailer are in on the joke because maybe the film is a little bit more self-serious, but I mean, I already told you this looks like the ultimate plane movie.
Oh, it absolutely does.
But
I
that's what January is perfect for. It is that palate cleanser where we're getting movies like Megan and
and
the
Plane.
plane.
Just Plane, man. Like with no other title. Everyone like there's just a whiteboard with a bunch of names. They're like, let's just call it Plane. And it looks hilarious. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I think like you
Um
could start a whole like Gerard Butler in certain vehicles. It's like Gerard Butler in car, Gerard Butler in boat.
Hilarious. Hilarious. Going through Westworld got canceled. Not surprising.
Is
I bailed
anybody
out
still
after.
watching that like
I
after
think some
season
people
3?
said season 4 was really good, or like the last couple seasons. I think people said were pretty good, but I think people were so burned on the second season. Is that the one people didn't like?
I think that's the
That
one.
that's where I kind of dropped out and then didn't continue. Did you watch Westworld at all or no?
The first season, yeah. I
Yeah, which
liked
I
it, but
thought
I
was
felt it
yeah.
was also kind of like better as a mini series. Like it kind of felt like it was done at the end of season 1.
Hmm.
But then I just never picked up on it again. Not because I didn't like that first season. It was just more so there's just so much, out there, and it just kind of got pushed to the wayside.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked it, but I think yeah, I bailed out maybe 2/3 of the way through season 2 and just never went back to it. And I've heard people say like it when Aaron Paul came in, it really changed, and then it got really good, and then they were hoping it would have like one more season to kind of wrap everything up, but
Well, maybe they'll do a
unfortunately.
movie or something like that. Because, like, I mean, even though Deadwood, no, maybe was Deadwood canceled or did it just end? Deadwood had a film to kind of wrap up all the loose ends. So I could see like down the line HBO being like, okay, let's let them have their sort of conclusion on this.
Yeah, but
But it
it's
was
not the
supposed to be the next Game of Thrones. Like that was like the whole thing, right? Like where it was coming out near the end of Game of Thrones, and it was kind
And
of
I
like,
think that first season was super popular. Like it almost
yeah,
got there, right? It just kind of lost everyone in that second season. So, and that just shows you like with there's so much out there to your point where if you lose an audience even if it's for like just half of a season, it's like it's hard to get them back, right? Like
mhm.
you will keep a section of that audience that will be really, passionate about your property. But like even look with the leftovers and other kind of HBO shows that like are great, but they kind of lost themselves for a bit and had to reinvent themselves, and then
Like in the
it
plane,
just
right? Survive together or die
yeah,
alone.
lost, never lost it. Zaslav is also canceled the Degrassi remake that they were or sequel series, whatever the hell it was going to be. It was like Euphoria, but Degrassi, but Canadian, Canadian Euphoria, with Degrassi over there. So, um, it's a crime against Canadians, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a big Degrassi guy. Were you?
No, I never
For
watched it.
something that was so huge here, I'm surprised neither of us watched it.
No,
Never, eh? Yeah,
no,
no, same.
it was one of those. It was one of those shows where, like, when it first started to kind of get popular in the '80s, I remember like there were like when we were kids, like I think like that period they were doing retrospectives on that original series, and I remember seeing like some talk show episode of and I think it was like on Omni One or something like that, of the original cast talking about the show, and it was around the time that they were originally going to reboot it or bring it back, and that's the only exposure I've ever had to Degrassi, with the exception of Kevin Smith. I think directed an
Directed,
episode
and Jay
and
and
was
Silent
it.
Bob showed up. Yeah.
Yeah, and Drake was a cast member for a while.
Yeah. I'm I never watched it. I was sort of fascinated with it recently because like I think it was like before its time for like a TV show that like has lasted so long. And I know soap operas are kind of like the first things for that, with characters returning and having older versions and sticking with the series for so long. And like, but Degrassi for each sequel series to bring back like the previous cast is like the adults, I think is like for a Canadian TV show that then transcended into the US and has like a really like a cult following from the US. I think is so fascinating, and for something that I just never cared about or never watched. And I know it dealt with like, some real themes for teenagers and stuff too at the time. And like, when we kind of make fun of Canadian television sometimes, like Degrassi was that first one that I feel like both from like I hate using like cinematic universe, but like having
Well,
people
legacy
come back.
series,
Yeah,
right?
legacy series is perfect. Yeah, where they brought it this cast back and did a sequel series and another sequel series, and you're still having cast that was from like the 80s come back and do some stuff. And then it's something that feels like it's been canceled more than any other TV show. Like I feel like Degrassi's been canceled 11 times. And
But it keeps coming
somehow,
back.
yeah, it keeps coming back, whether Netflix and now HBO or whoever had it here in Canada. I think it was it CBC or no? Who
Maybe
knows?
at
Neither
one
of us
time.
watched it.
No.
Bob Odenkirk's going to be in Wonder Man. We talked about
Now,
Yahya
is that
Abdul-Mateen,
confirmed?
right? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
what?
Yes, we did
Not
mention also.
confirmed, sorry, but like the to be fair, yeah, it is one that hasn't been confirmed by a trade. However, the Yahya Abdul-Mateen casting, I think, was from the same website, which is also Wonder Man. Um, and it was confirmed later. So, anyways, sorry. Bob Odenkirk rumored to be in Wonder Man. I'm all for it. Playing a Wonder Man's agent, which is a little bit of typecasting, but I love Bob Odenkirk, so put him in a suit and let him be Ari Goldman.
Yeah, I mean, especially after Degrassi, the new generation was canceled. He was going to be, one of the teachers on the show.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm still thinking about like it was funny because I was like, what show did I watch that maybe was similar to Degrassi? And the only thing that popped in my mind was Breaker High, which I remember
Yeah,
like
I watched
watching
Breaker
that
High.
with Ryan Gosling. So like that's like that my Degrassi was Breaker High, which is a show about for if we have any international listeners, which is about a group of high school students, basically set on this semester on a boat and traveling to various locations and getting into hijinks and stuff like that. So,
Yep. Anything else, Eric, before we wrap?
no, I think we're good. I think we're good.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you for listening or watching, everyone. We really do appreciate it. On next week's episode, Eric and I will talk about our LA trip. I'll be gone for about a week. Eric will pop in and out of LA, and then we'll talk about our experience at the Glass Onion premiere, and what I got up to at Disneyland and the other places I'm going to in my LA trip. So that should be fun. But we'll take a little bit of a break. But we do have the Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoiler-free review for you guys to go listen to right now on Untitled Movie Reviews and on YouTube. Then on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, our spoiler cast for Black Panther Wakanda Forever will also go up. And then next week we'll be back with some more reviews and stuff. So you can check out our Glass Onion review too if you want, since we'll probably talk about the experience of seeing it for a second time, obviously. But like, you can go
Well,
check that out.
it would be a 2.5.
2.5 or 2 1/3. Um, I don't know if I ever talked about that, but I did go watch the first 40 minutes, 30 minutes during TIFF again for a second time. Other stuff you guys can go check out: Causeway review, Tales of the Jedi, Armageddon Time, um, After Sun, The Good Nurse, Black Adam, Halloween Ends, Tar. Please don't give me 1-star reviews. Rosaline, Amsterdam, things like that. Our last couple episodes we talked about is James Gunn the right choice for DC Studios, Black Adam, Super Mario Brothers trailer. Go check those out as well. One-stop shop for everything. Head over to Untitled_movies over on Letterboxd. And you can follow me on all those social medias. Hopefully still Twitter by next week, but at Matt Rohrbeck.
Who knows? And I'm Eric March, and you can find more of my video reviews on rogerstv.com/cinemascene and on the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time.
Jerry Butler in Cars.